actually hyperventilating. Like, I am breathless, my pulse is racing, and I am genuinely considering writing a formal letter to the broadcasting authorities.
I was sitting on my couch, wondering if we legally have a duty of care to call the police on the OG girls.
Literally, Aiden's audacity has reached levels I didn't even know were mathematically possible within the confines of reality television.
It is a biohazard. The man is a walking, talking, flirting biohazard.
And the fact that we are still dealing with this absolute train wreck in week 8 is sending me into a profound emotional spiral.
Because the level of delusion, like the mob mentality, the absolute refusal to live in a shared objective reality, it's not just a red flag anymore.
No, it's a banner.
It is a full-blown crimson tidal wave crashing over that entire villa, washing away any semblance of logic.
Babes, welcome back. We love you. We see you. And honestly, some people have their lives together. We, on the other hand, scheduled dinner before recording a podcast and somehow still end up exhausted.
Exhausted, emotionally drained, but, adequately hydrated.
Highly hydrated.
To everyone listening right now, Snark Squad, we have our passion fruit mojitos on deck.
Yeah.
Because tonight feels like the perfect summer evening, and we are ready to unpack the chaos. Cheers to you.
Cheers. So before we establish our analytical framework for tonight and literally rip the roof off the villa, we have to talk about our dinner before coming into the studio.
Oh boy, here we go.
Because I feel like going out to eat with you is an exercise in psychological warfare.
I completely resent that accusation. I am a highly rational diner. I just operate on a very strict culinary philosophy that challenges the traditional archaic structures of the modern restaurant industry.
Okay, Snark Squad, picture the scenario. We are sitting at this gorgeous, dimly little Italian place. The ambiance is immaculate, right? And we are handed the menus. I ordered the truffle mushroom risotto, which was divine, but I spent a solid 20 minutes agonizing over the lobster ravioli.
The FOMO was real for you.
The FOMO was visceral. I was experiencing genuine decision fatigue. And you went on a complete unhinged anti-entree tangent right in front of the waiter.
Because entrees are a structural scam. I will shout this from the mountaintops until I lose my voice.
It's just a plate of food?
No, the appetizers are secretly the best part of any meal, but society has conditioned us to believe we must commit to one massive, monolithic plate of food to achieve satiation.
So what did you order? Tell everyone.
I ordered the burrata, the crispy calamari, and the garlic confit crostini.
Which is basically just snacks.
It's tapas style, it's varied, it is an adventure in flavor profiling. By the time your massive, heavy, singular bowl of risotto arrives, you get flavor fatigue after 4 bites.
I do not get flavor fatigue.
The law of diminishing marginal utility applies to pasta, babes, and I refuse to be a victim of it.
It is not a scam. It is a composed dish. It tells a story. The chef spent time curating a specific flavor profile, balancing the acidity and the richness, and you are just treating a high-end, beautifully orchestrated menu like a buffet at a chaotic wedding reception.
A buffet of unadulterated joy. Why commit to one giant, heavy plate of carbohydrates when I can experience the textural contrast of crispy seafood, the creaminess of artisanal cheese, and the crunch of perfectly toasted bread, all at the exact same time?
Okay, fine. But the real crime, the actual psychological delusion of our dinner, was your reaction when the waiter brought over the dessert menu.
Here we go with the lava cake.
I just wanted a little sweet treat, a tiny hit of dopamine to end the meal. I casually asked, hey, should we split the molten lava cake? And you looked at me like I had just suggested we commit arson together.
Because it is arson, emotional arson.
Splitting dessert is a bonding experience. It's communal. It's a shared moment of culinary appreciation that brings people together.
Splitting dessert is a dangerous delusion. Let's analyze the mechanics of sharing a dessert. It is not sharing. It is merely delaying the inevitable, silent, passive-aggressive fight over the last bite of the molten lava cake.
It is not a fight. We are best friends.
It's an emotional hostage situation. I am sitting there, holding my spoon like a weapon, watching your spoon's trajectory across the plate, actively trying to calculate the exact volume of cake you are taking versus the volume left on the plate.
You are doing math.
I am doing fractional mathematics with chocolate ganache in my head.
Yeah.
If I want the lava cake, I want the autonomy of the whole lava cake. I don't want to engage in a cold war over a raspberry coulis.
You are so incredibly ruthless. It's about the intimacy of breaking bread, or in this case, breaking cake. You literally drew an invisible territorial line down the center of the plate with the edge of your fork like you were dividing up property in a divorce settlement.
Boundaries are essential in all relationships, especially when premium chocolate is involved, which, actually brings me to the absolute most humbling, ego-destroying experience of our evening.
Oh, no.
The fact that after eating our respective weights in burrata, calamari, and truffle risotto, we somehow convinced ourselves it would be a cute, productive idea to go to the gym.
Oh, my gosh. We have to confess to the Snark Squad right now, full transparency. We are not gym baddies.
Not even a microscopic amount.
You're just not built for that specific biome.
Walking into that weight room felt like crossing the border into a hostile foreign country without a passport, a map, or a basic understanding of the local language.
It is terrifying.
The aggressive fluorescent lighting, the soundtrack of grunting, the sheer, terrifying volume of mirrors exposing every single angle of your confusion. It is a complete sensory assault.
And the physics in that room make zero sense. Why does every single dumbbell magically weigh 100 pounds?
Because it's a trap.
I walked over to the rack feeling very confident and tried to pick up what I thought was a totally reasonable, beginner-friendly 15-pound weight. My arm just stayed attached to the floor.
It did not move.
The weight did not move. And why does everyone else in there look like an anatomical muscle chart? They know exactly what they're doing, moving with precision and purpose, while I look like a highly confused flamingo just wandering aimlessly between menacing metal machines.
You did look incredibly avian, I'm not going to lie to you.
Hey.
You were standing next to the seated leg press machine, pressing random buttons on the digital display like you were trying to hack into a government mainframe.
I didn't know how to turn it on.
It's fascinating how different fitness spaces dictate your internal psychology. When we go to Pilates or yoga, the dim lighting, the soft music, it makes you feel like this graceful, ethereal swan.
Exactly. I feel so aligned.
You are connecting with your breath, right? But the traditional gym, the gym strips you of all dignity and humbles you immediately. You sit on a machine, realize with horror that it's covered in someone else's residual sweat, desperately adjust the pin to the lightest possible weight setting, and still physically struggle to complete one single repetition.
But listen, I am operating on pure, unfiltered delusion right now, and I am manifesting that we become absolute fitness icons by next summer.
Based on what evidence?
I have absolutely no evidence to support this trajectory. I have no structural plan in place, but I am speaking it into existence. We're going to be those girls in the perfectly matching, seamless sets, casually drinking neon pre-workout from a shaker bottle.
The only thing we are currently icons of is aspirational shopping.
Oh, don't call me out like this.
Which leads us perfectly into our spiral of most delusional purchases.
Wow.
Because let's be honest, bestie, we don't buy these fitness items for our actual current selves. We buy them for the fantasy, idealized version of ourselves. We are purchasing the aesthetic of discipline.
I am so horribly guilty of this. Okay, my ultimate confession, I bought this wildly expensive, hyper-specific fancy water bottle. It was genuinely like $100.
$100 for a cup.
It has the motivational time markers printed on the side to tell you exactly when to drink. It's triple insulated stainless steel. It has a silicone boot. It's gorgeous. But when it is actually full of water, it is literally too heavy to carry.
Of course it is.
I feel like I'm doing a literal farmer's carry workout, just transporting it from the kitchen counter to my desk. So now it just sits there, an expensive monument to my dehydration, actively judging me. Oh, and I also bought a beautiful leather-bound 5-year memory journal that I wrote in exactly twice in January of 2023.
The heavy water bottle is a classic manifestation of aspirational guilt. You deeply wanted to embody the identity of a hydration girly, someone who glows from within and never gets a headache, but you ended up pulling a rotator cuff just tried to take a sip.
What about you? What is your delusional purchase?
A massive matching set of 30 glass meal prep containers.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I was utterly convinced, borderline radicalized, by a Sunday reset vlog. I thought I was going to spend my weekends roasting root vegetables, portioning out organic quinoa, and aligning my chakras through Tupperware.
And where are they now?
They are currently gathering dust in a high cabinet I can barely reach. Oh, and I bought this viral TikTok kitchen gadget that supposedly chops, dices, and juliennes every vegetable perfectly in seconds.
The one with all the blades.
Yes, it has 18 different razor-sharp attachments, and it requires a degree in mechanical engineering just to disassemble and clean it. It actually takes me significantly longer to safely clean the intricate blades than it would to just chop an onion with a standard chef's knife.
We are professional aspirational shoppers. We are literally buying the aesthetic of having our lives together instead of actually putting in the psychological and physical work required to change our habits.
Exactly. We buy the containers, but we order the takeout, we buy the heavy water bottle, but we drink the diet soda.
But babes, enough about our imaginary fitness journeys. Let's head into the villa where everyone's lifting emotional baggage instead of dumbbells.
Yes, the transition from physical weight to emotional weight is completely seamless, because today we are taking the footage from week 8 of the villa, and we are analyzing the absolute psychological warfare of reality TV confinement.
I am dying to break this down because we have to talk about the Grafties. This entire awards ceremony was essentially a curated emotional war zone designed by producers to inflict maximum psychological damage.
It was lethal.
And I am still recovering from the fallout. The absolute meat of this recap is the Aiden and Priya train wreck. It is a masterclass in delusion at its absolute finest.
Trainwreck doesn't even begin to cover the structural devastation we witnessed. It was a multi-car pileup on national television, and everyone refused to hit the brakes. Let's break down the actual awards.
Please.
Aiden essentially swept the Grafties, but for all the absolute worst, most toxic reasons imaginable.
Let's review the tape. He won the Plot Twist Award for flirting with Bella. And let's remind the Snark Squad of the deeply twisted context here. Bella is Jasmine's sister.
Her actual flesh and blood sister.
He is actively flirting with the sister of the villa's matriarch. And then, as if that wasn't enough collateral damage, he wins the raunchiest moment for his highly questionable time in the hideaway with Alysia.
He was up on that stage collecting awards like Meryl Streep at the Oscars, just soaking in the applause. Except his acting is completely transparent. His integrity is in the deep negatives, and his currency is pure manipulation.
I know he's a walking disaster. I see the red flags waving violently in the wind, but a tiny, hopelessly romantic part of my brain is desperately trying to find a shred of hope for Priya in all this.
Why? How could you possibly...
Hear me out. Is she just so completely irrevocably blinded by love? Like, when you are trapped in that villa bubble, completely isolated from your friends and family, and this incredibly charming guy is giving you just enough intermittent reinforcement, like just enough crumbs to keep your dopamine spiking, maybe she genuinely believes she is special enough to be the one to change him.
I'm shutting that optimistic narrative down right now. I am boarding up the windows and locking the door on that theory. There's no hope here.
Really? None.
Aiden operates on what I call pump-and-dump emotional economics.
Oh my gosh.
It is a toxic playbook that is so transparent it's basically made of glass. He artificially inflates a girl's perceived value in the villa with these grand, sweeping declarations of loyalty to draw her in. He pumps up her ego. In the exact second she invests her emotional capital, he cashes out and pivots to the next bombshell, leaving her holding an empty bag.
But Priya really thinks...
We saw the raw footage. He literally admitted on camera, speaking directly to the boys in the bedroom, that he would gladly kiss any girl in that villa. He is an equal opportunity emotional mercenary. He has zero loyalty. And yet, Priya is clinging on to this fabricated connection like it's a life raft in the freezing Atlantic, when really, Aiden is the iceberg that sank the ship.
That economic analogy is terrifyingly accurate, and what makes it so much worse is how he justifies his behavior. It's the pounce semantic war that really took me over the edge.
Oh, the pounce thing.
We see the hidden footage where Aiden is complaining to Samraj, claiming that he can't have a deep intellectual conversation with Priya because every time he tries to open up, she pounces on him physically.
Which is such a deeply insidious, manipulative way to frame a lack of emotional connection. He is actively weaponizing her physical affection to excuse his own profound emotional unavailability.
Right.
He is shifting the blame for the shallow nature of their relationship onto her libido. And then, when confronted with the footage at the awards, he tries to backtrack and gaslight the entire room by saying, well, I didn't mean pounce in a bad way, it was a compliment.
Yes, you did, Aiden. Words have specific connotations.
Yep.
You used a predatory verb to describe a woman seeking intimacy to make yourself the victim of her affection.
It's linguistic manipulation. And then the absolute peak of the chaos, the hideaway tent defense.
I have secondhand embarrassment just thinking about it.
When the clip plays of Aiden and Priya in the hideaway, and it is overwhelmingly obvious what is happening under the covers, she tries to defend it to the entire cast and to the millions of viewers at home by loudly shouting, "That's just my legs holding up the blanket."
I physically had to look away from the screen.
I physically paused my television. I had to stare at the blank wall of my living room for a full minute to process the sheer magnitude of that lie. Saying, "That's just my legs holding up the blanket," to hide the fact that you were clearly engaging in extreme physical intimacy is like holding a transparent plastic umbrella in a hurricane and adamantly claiming you were completely dry.
We all saw the structural architecture of that blanket tent, the tension, the movement. Your legs were essentially load-bearing pillars for a very active, highly kinetic construction site. Who are you lying to? We have infrared cameras.
Exactly. We could see the heat signatures.
Let's talk about the psychological mechanism here because it's fascinating. She actually said out loud, my mom and dad are going to be so mad. Like, girl, if you are that acutely aware that your parents are watching this broadcast, maybe don't construct the blanket tent in the first place.
Or at least own up to it.
It is pure cognitive dissonance. Her brain is desperately trying to reconcile her idealized version of herself, you know, the good daughter whose parents are proud, with her actual televised behavior in the hideaway. The result is this fractured, entirely illogical defense mechanism where she genuinely hopes if she shouts, "It's just my legs," loud enough, reality will bend to her will.
Exactly. It's a survival mechanism for her ego.
Yep.
And after all of this public humiliation, because let's face the reality, Aiden thoroughly humiliated her by having his infidelity and lies broadcast to the group, he pulls her for a private chat. And what does he say to the woman he has just embarrassed on a national scale? He looks her dead in the eye and tells her to calm down.
The two deadliest, most inflammatory words in the English language to say to a woman who is rightfully, justifiably upset is throwing gasoline on an emotional fire.
And then, the true masterpiece of clinical detachment, he says, I sympathize for you.
I actually shrieked at my television. My neighbors probably thought I was being attacked. Sympathize. You sympathize.
It's sociopathic.
The clinical distance of that word is chilling. It sounded like somebody died or she lost her job in a corporate restructuring. You don't sympathize with the girl you were supposedly romantically involved with after you publicly humiliated her with your actions. You apologize. You take immediate, groveling accountability.
Sympathize is exactly what you write in a generic, mass-produced greeting card to a distant coworker whose dog passed away. It is a calculated distancing word. It completely removes his agency from the equation, as if her emotional pain is just a tragic weather event that randomly happened to her, rather than a direct causal result of his own toxic behavior.
He's basically saying, wow, sucks to be you right now.
It is masterclass gaslighting. He is positioning himself as an empathetic bystander to the trauma he actively caused.
It is so dark when you break it down like that. But then the narrative shifts, because as much as Priya is a victim of Aiden's manipulation, her own mask completely slips. We hit the absolute lowest point of the entire episode, the National Rail Comment.
This is where the sociological experiment of the villa gets truly ugly. This is where Priya lost me entirely. She went into an absolute moral freefall.
Let's set the scene for the Snark Squad. They are showing the After Sun clips to the Islanders, right? This is the category for the Keep My Name Out Your Mouth award. And Alysia, who has already been dumped from the island, is on the After Sun talk show, simply answering a direct question from the host. She calls Priya a game player. It's a standard baseline reality TV opinion.
Very standard.
But Priya does not just take it on the chin. She doesn't just defend her character or her relationship. She lashes out and goes straight for the jugular. She aggressively job shames Alysia, telling her on camera to go back to the National Rail.
It was so deeply vile, it was dripping with systemic classism and a deeply rooted superiority complex. Let's analyze the power dynamics here. Alysia answered a question on a talk show about the game. Priya's immediate reflex, her defensive instinct when her social capital was threatened, was to attack Alysia's livelihood, her income bracket, and her normal working-class job.
It was so gross.
Why attack the job? Because occupation is the ultimate status lever. Priya used financial insecurity and working-class labor as a weapon to demean another woman. It was a complete, staggering lack of self-awareness. You are currently wearing a microphone pack in a neon-lit villa on a reality dating show. You are not aristocracy. Most of the people in that room are going back to normal day jobs the second their brand deals dry up.
It was so shocking that even Kavan had to intervene. And let's be real, Kavan has the emotional depth of a dried-up puddle most days. He is usually completely checked out. But even he had to step in and defend Alysia. He literally spoke up and said, whoa, there's nothing wrong with working for the National Rail. My dad worked there.
That was the craziest part.
When Kavan, the man who barely registers a pulse during major emotional conflicts, is suddenly the voice of moral reason and working-class solidarity in a conversation, you know you have severely lost the plot.
It showed incredibly nasty true colors. The pressure cooker of the villa stripped away Priya's media training, and we saw what she actually values, which is status and hierarchy. And speaking of fragile egos violently snapping under the pressure of public perception, we absolutely have to transition to Samraj.
Oh, Samraj, the decades-old beef that simply refuses to die. The man who holds on to a grudge like it is a family heirloom.
So during these same Grafties awards, the producers, who are truly chaotic evil at this point, replay an argument from weeks ago. We are talking literally week 2. Samraj and Priya had a spat where he called her embarrassing, and in a moment of completely justified frustration, Priya told him to F off.
Which, honestly, let's validate Priya for 1 second. If a man condescendingly calls me embarrassing in front of the entire villa, actively trying to shrink me and make me feel small, I'm absolutely dropping an F-bomb too. That is a natural reaction to being demeaned.
Exact.
But what completely derailed Samraj in this moment wasn't just seeing the clip replayed, it was the audio track.
It was the audience response. The studio audience on the Aftersun clip actively clapped and cheered when Priya swore at him. And Samraj completely short-circuited. His brain could not process the data.
He went into a total tailspin. He's pacing around, demanding to know why bad behavior is being applauded. He cannot fathom why he isn't being hailed as the victim.
What is fascinating here, if we put on our sociological lens, is the underlying gender dynamic regarding emotional expression. We see it time and time again, both in that villa and in the real world. Certain men simply cannot handle it when a woman matches their aggressive energy. Samraj felt perfectly entitled to demean Priya by calling her embarrassing to her face, a deeply patronizing word designed to enforce a hierarchy and make her feel socially inferior.
Right, to put her in her place.
But the very microsecond she responds with equal verbal aggression, suddenly the narrative shifts. Suddenly, she is the volatile villain, and he is the innocent, wounded victim of inappropriate language. His ego was so incredibly fragile that the mere sound of a studio audience clapping for a woman's defiance completely shattered his worldview. He wanted her submission, and society applauded her rebellion.
And then, to make matters infinitely worse, we have Micah. Sweet, young, naive 21-year-old Micah tries to step in and play the role of mediator. She pulls them both aside, sits them down on the daybed, and hits them with the classic, "Look, you both did something wrong here."
Oh my God, no.
I am telling you right now, that is the absolute worst, most damaging thing you can do to a man throwing a tantrum over his bruised ego. You do not both side the situation when one person is demanding unilateral vindication.
What Micah is practicing there is a concept called toxic neutrality. Micah is desperate for peace and quiet. She hates conflict. But peace without justice is just suppression. By sitting them down and demanding equal accountability, saying you both did something wrong, when Samraj was the clear initial aggressor who demeaned Priya, Micah actually empowers the bully.
She just feeds his ego.
She validates Samraj's outrage by giving his grievance equal weight to Priya's defense. She wanted the awkwardness to go away, but instead she just handed Samraj more ammunition to feel justified in his anger.
It is infuriating to watch. I have to ask everyone listening, have you ever had a partner or a friend bring up a highly specific fight from week 2 when you are currently in week 8 of a relationship? It is emotional terrorism.
It really is.
You think you've moved past it, you think the slate is clean, you've apologized, and suddenly, in the middle of a completely unrelated argument, they pull out an emotional receipt from a month ago. It is exhausting.
It unequivocally proves he never actually let it go. He harbored that resentment, letting it ferment in his mind for 6 weeks, just waiting for the perfect public moment to deploy it. It is calculated.
Well, while Micah is completely failing at being a peacekeeper and actively making things worse, Julia is taking the exact opposite approach. Julia is actively choosing violence against the OG girls, and while part of me is stressed out by the confrontation, another part of me is absolutely here for the disruption of the hierarchy.
Julia versus the villa. It is the cinematic rise of the absolute anti-hero. She and Lorenzo are officially, unequivocally, public enemy number 1 to Jasmine, Micah, and the rest of the original girl crew.
The setup for this was perfectly orchestrated by the producers. The Aftersun clips for the Keep My Name Out Your Mouth award showed all the dumped Islanders, Charlene, Loa, Alysia, just absolutely dragging the original girls. Charlene flat out says on camera that she doesn't want to be friends with Micah, calling her fake. And Julia, who is currently sitting right next to Micah and Jasmine in the villa, actively cheers for this.
It was beautiful.
She literally claps and cheers while sitting next to the people being insulted.
And this exact behavior is why I violently, passionately defend Julia. She is a necessary disruptor.
Really? You don't think she's being a bit too harsh? I feel like she's poking the bear for absolutely no strategic reason. She's stirring the pot just to watch the soup burn to the bottom of the pan.
No, she is doing vital sociological work. She is the only person in that entire ecosystem willing to pierce the impenetrable echo chamber of the OG girls. Let's look at the structural dynamic of the villa right now. Jasmine is the undisputed mother hen. She is the queen bee, and the rest of the girls act like a highly coordinated pack of hyenas protecting their leader.
They really do.
If you go against Jasmine, even slightly, you go against the entire pack. They have coasted on this unspoken social hierarchy for 8 weeks, quietly dictating who gets grace, who gets camera time, and who gets isolated. Think about it. The Casa Amber girls were subtly bullied and dismissed. The bombshells were systematically iced out of conversations. Julia recognized this hypocrisy immediately, and instead of shrinking herself to fit into their exclusionary clique, she grabbed a metaphorical megaphone and blew it all up.
I mean, the execution was flawless. When she pulled Jasmine for a one-on-one chat at the fire pit, my jaw was physically on the floor. She did not stutter. She did not use filler words. She called out Jasmine's gameplay directly to her face. She accused Jasmine of using Priya as a pawn to do her dirty work, manipulating the narrative so Jasmine keeps her hands clean, while coasting to the finale with Lorenzo on a safe, comfortable, boring ticket.
And Jasmine absolutely glitched. We literally saw the central processing unit of the queen bee glitch in real time. Because the OG girls are so accustomed to operating in the shadows, talking behind people's backs, orchestrating these quiet, passive-aggressive little takedowns in the dressing room while applying lip gloss. When someone finally confronts them face-to-face, live and direct, with unvarnished truth, they do not have a script for it. Jasmine didn't know how to handle direct, unapologetic confrontation, so her system crashed.
She broke down completely. She was full chest sobbing, hyperventilating on screen. It was a total collapse of her carefully curated image, and we simply must briefly touch on Kavan during this entire breakdown.
At Kavan.
Kavan is sitting there on the beanbags watching his romantic partner Jasmine, sobbing hysterically, and he is staring blankly into the middle distance like a lemon. There is absolutely nothing behind the eyes. No comfort, no anger, no empathy, just a dial tone.
Kavan is mentally at the baggage claim at Heathrow Airport. He is already looking for the Uber pickup zone. He is checked out of this relationship. He is checked out of the villa politics. He's just a physical entity occupying space, waiting for his contractually obligated time to expire so he can go back to Essex.
Okay, we need to bring some structural order to this absolute chaos. Let's apply some real-world logic to this madness with our first segment, the Villa HR department. Pretend for a moment that the producers finally snapped, realized this environment is legally toxic, and hired us as the official human resources managers for Love Island. We have to debate and rule on the various infractions.
I have my clipboard ready and my pen is fully inked. Let's start with the most pressing issue on the docket. Who gets written up first? Because I have a few names circling in my mind.
I argue it has to be Aiden. The extreme, sustained gaslighting, the constant minimizing of Priya's feelings, the blatant workplace harassment of aggressively flirting with literally everyone else in the office, it's the definition of a hostile work environment. When he told Priya she pounced on him, he was actively deflecting from his own bad behavior by blaming the victim. That is a textbook HR violation that requires immediate intervention.
Aiden is a systemic menace, yes. His file is thick, but I am officially writing up Priya first. I am sorry, but violating the company's anti-classism policy is a strict zero-tolerance offense.
You think it's worse than Aiden's manipulation?
In a corporate setting, yes. The National Rail comment was not just a heat-of-the-moment, poorly chosen insult. It was a targeted structural attack on a colleague's socioeconomic status. In any functional culture environment, you cannot scream at a coworker to go back to their lower-paying job because you are losing an argument. That is an immediate meeting with HR, a suspension, and potentially grounds for immediate termination. You cannot weaponize class.
Okay, looking at it from a strictly compliance standpoint, that is a fair ruling. Priya gets the first official warning placed in her permanent file. Now, on a more positive note, who are we nominating for Employee of the Month?
I think we both know exactly who I am nominating. I am putting Julia's picture on the wall.
For Employee of the Month? Are you serious? She is actively creating a hostile work environment by loudly cheering when her coworkers get dragged on national television. She is terrible for company morale.
She is modeling extreme radical transparency. Think about corporate culture. We despise passive-aggressive Slack messages. We hate water cooler gossip and the toxic whisper networks that destroy morale from the inside out. Julia skips all of that bureaucracy. She bypasses the whisper network entirely and says exactly what she thinks, directly to the person's face in broad daylight. She is disrupting a stagnant, toxic corporate culture. She's a vital change agent. Employee of the Month with a bonus.
Your HR philosophy is completely unhinged, but I deeply respect the internal logic. Okay, who are we sending to mandatory conflict resolution training?
Samraj and Priya. Without question. Block off their calendars for a full week.
Literally. They are still actively fighting over an incident from Q1. It is week 8. If you are still bringing up a week 2 argument about the word embarrassing, you severely lack basic, fundamental conflict resolution skills. They need to sit in a windowless, overly air-conditioned conference room for 6 straight hours doing trust falls, whiteboard exercises, and I feel statements until they can legally let the grudge go.
Moving on to broader, systemic issues within the organization. Who keeps chronically violating workplace policies?
The OG girls, specifically Jasmine's inner circle. It is textbook exclusionary mean girl break room behavior. They monopolize the good couches, they actively freeze out new hires, aka the bombshells and casa girls, and they create a highly intimidated compliant workforce through social isolation. It's cliquey, it's exclusionary, and it's a massive HR nightmare waiting for a lawsuit.
Spot on. They're creating a monopoly on social capital. Finally, which employee would absolutely never complete the mandatory online HR training modules?
Lorenzo. 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, Lorenzo. He would click through the slides as fast as physically possible without reading a single word, fail the multiple choice quiz at the end, stare blankly at the HR rep with those empty eyes, shed one singular, perfectly timed tear to gain sympathy, and then ask if he can go back out to the sunbeds to tan. And because of pretty privilege, he'd probably get away with it.
Teflon Lorenzo.
Yeah.
The man absorbs nothing, he reflects nothing, he just exists as a highly aesthetic void. All right, let's transition from identifying the problems to actually fixing the structural mechanics of the show. Let's open up the suggestion box. Because if production gave us control, we could fix the psychological dynamics of this show in a week. I submitted 5 anonymous, highly disruptive suggestions to production, and I know you did too. Let's hear your ideas for structural reform.
Okay, my suggestions are heavily geared toward emotional well-being and actual, genuine relationship testing rather than just chaotic drama. Suggestion number 1, mandatory therapy immediately after Casa Amor.
Oh, absolutely. The psychological damage inflicted during the post-Casa recoupling ceremony is too high. The emotional whiplash requires clinical intervention.
Right, it is traumatizing. Suggestion number 2, friendship immunity. Hear me out on the mechanics of this. Sometimes the OG Islanders just band together and vote out the new bombshells at the very first recoupling because they want to protect their comfortable platonic friendships. It ruins the point of a dating show. If we implemented friendship immunity where you legally cannot vote out a newbie just to save your bestie, it would force actual romantic connections to carry the weight of survival.
That would actually change everything.
And suggestion number 3, couples cooking challenges.
Wait, I need you to explain the psychology behind cooking. Why cooking?
To expose who weaponizes incompetence. You can learn absolutely everything you need to know about a man's character and communication style by watching him try to dice a tomato under a time crunch while his partner gives him verbal instructions. Does he listen? Does he shut down? Does he blame her for the dull knife? It would expose the cracks in the relationship immediately. Okay, what were your suggestions?
My suggestions are a bit more psychologically aggressive. Suggestion number 1, lie detector Fridays.
Oh my God, no. Absolutely not. The lie detector was banned for a very specific reason. It ruins lives and destroys mental health.
It creates masterpieces of modern television. Think of the sheer clarity it would provide. Think of Aiden, strapped to a polygraph machine, heart rate monitored, being asked if he actually genuinely sympathizes with Priya. The machine would physically combust. The needle would break off the paper.
It is entirely too cruel. It crosses an ethical line.
Fine, we will table the polygraph. Suggestion number 2, anonymous advice played on a loudspeaker from eliminated Islanders. Imagine waking up in the morning, making your iced coffee, and suddenly Alysia's disembodied voice echoes through the villa speakers, telling Priya she's a game player. It's psychological art. It's Shakespearean. And my final suggestion, no kissing for 24 hours.
Wait, pause. That is actually brilliant.
Right. Think about the underlying mechanics of their relationships. Watch them all completely lose their minds trying to actually communicate with words. These Islanders rely so heavily on physical intimacy to bridge the massive gap of their emotional stuntedness. Whenever a conversation gets slightly difficult, they just start making out to avoid the conflict. If you take the kissing away, by mandate, they would be forced to have a real verbal conversation. Aiden would literally evaporate into thin air. He wouldn't know how to function.
Okay, I concede. The no kissing rule would instantly improve the emotional depth of the villa. Let's move on to our economic analysis. It's time for the delusion stock market. We are analyzing the social capital of these Islanders, deciding whether we are buying, selling, or holding their stock based on their current trajectory and gameplay. I will start with Priya. I am shorting Priya's stock so aggressively I am basically crashing the market. But I have this lingering fear that her national radio comment is actually going to give her the reality TV villain longevity that producers love. Convince me I'm wrong.
I am also selling, dumping all shares on the open market at a massive loss. You are right to short it, but wrong about her longevity. To be a successful reality TV villain, you need charisma and calculated strategy. Priya's national rail comment wasn't calculated villainy, it was a desperate, unlikable panic response. Her stock is in an absolute freefall, her confidence is entirely shattered, her relationship with Aiden is a sham built on lies, and her gameplay is just deeply sad to watch. The public won't keep a sad villain around. Sell everything.
It devastates me because I wanted a redemption arc, but you are right. Next is Aiden.
Selling. Aiden's stock is exactly what I described earlier, a classic pump-and-dump altcoin. It was built entirely on initial hype, a terrible boy's charm, and complete fabricated lies. He has zero foundational integrity. He is a rug pull of a human being, just counting down the days until his contract ends so he can hit the club scene in London and exploit his newfound fame. The bubble is bursting. Sell.
Okay, I agree on Aiden, but what about Julia? I am very hesitant here.
EUYIing. I am buying every available share. I am liquidating my 401k and taking out a second mortgage to buy Julia stock. She is the blue chip disruptor of this season.
I am so shocked by how heavily you are investing in her. Her social game in the villa is terrible. She is alienating everyone.
You have to look at the macro perspective. She is carrying the entire plot. While the OGs are playing it safe and boring to get to the finale, Julia is terrifying them. She is delivering brutal, unvarnished honesty. She is the only volatile asset keeping this final week from being a boring, complacent snooze fest. The producers love her. The audience loves the drama. Buy Julia.
Okay, fine. I am currently holding on Julia because I need to see if she survives the next recoupling, but I see your long-term vision. What about the queen bee, Jasmine?
Holding, but with a highly anxious eye on the ticker.
Yeah, I'm holding too. She is still a matriarch, she still has a massive loyal following on the outside, and she holds the primary social power in the villa. But the structural cracks are showing. Her stock is incredibly volatile right now. She glitched under Julia's direct pressure, and her relationship with Kevin, who is currently astral projecting to another dimension, is giving me serious anxiety about her chances in the finale.
Which brings us perfectly to Lorenzo.
Holding. Forever holding.
Exactly. He is the index fund of nothingness. His stock never goes up, it never goes down. He does absolutely nothing. He contributes zero narrative value. He shows zero emotion for his partner, Julia. Yet somehow the villa ecosystem and the voting public just let him comfortably coast. It's the safest, most boring, completely stagnant investment on the board.
All right, it is time for the main event. The culmination of our analysis. We are entering Love Island court. We are putting the biggest, most complex controversy of the episode on formal trial. The case, the People versus Priya, regarding the sociological implications of the national rail comment directed at Alysia.
I will proudly represent the prosecution.
And I will step in as the defense attorney. Court is now officially in session.
Members of the jury. The prosecution argues that Priya is a classist snob and her actions cause severe structural harm. The evidence is clear, objective, and captured in 4K resolution. Alysia, a former contestant, was asked a direct, game-related question by the host of a talk show. She answered honestly, expressing a mild opinion about Priya's strategy. In response, Priya did not critique Alysia's argument. She did not defend her own character or relationship. Instead, she bypassed the argument entirely and immediately attacked Alysia's livelihood and income bracket. She weaponized the national rail as a slur. This demonstrates Priya's deeply rooted systemic privilege and nasty true colors. She fundamentally believes she is inherently better than someone who works a normal working-class job. This is not just a reality TV spat. It is a reinforcement of oppressive class hierarchies. The prosecution rests.
Objection, Your Honor. The defense argues that this incident cannot be viewed in a vacuum. Priya was severely provoked and acting under extreme, sustained emotional distress. Let's look at the psychological context of the environment. Priya has been systematically gaslit by Aiden for weeks. She has been manipulated, lied to, and publicly humiliated on national television not once but multiple times during this exact, highly stressful award ceremony. Her cortisol levels are through the roof. She just watched an entire live studio audience clap and cheer at her misery. She is sleep-deprived, socially isolated, and emotionally broken by a toxic partner. She snapped. It was a terrible, awful comment, yes, but it was the desperate, illogical lashing out of a wounded animal backed into a corner, not a calculated manifesto of her political and socioeconomic beliefs.
I approached the witness for cross-examination. Counselor, does severe emotional distress magically generate classist viewpoints out of thin air? Or does the pressure simply remove the filter, revealing what was already there? Is a bad day or a toxic boyfriend a valid coupon for bigotry?
Cross-examination for the prosecution. I ask you this directly. Have you ever said something wildly out of pocket, completely illogical and deeply mean when you were backed into a corner, completely exhausted, and feeling universally hated by everyone around you? People say things they don't mean when they're drowning.
I will exercise my right to remain silent on my own past behavior. However, I am not on international television representing myself to millions of impressionable people. The verdict must reflect the objective harm of the action, regardless of the internal distress of the actor.
Fine. The defense acknowledges the action was objectively wrong and caused harm. We are not asking for an acquittal. We are asking for leniency based on psychological context.
The verdict is unequivocally guilty. Guilty of classism, guilty of zero self-awareness, and guilty of ruining the collective vibe at the villa. But considering the psychological torture inflicted by Aiden, the court will offer a plea deal.
What are the terms of the deal?
Mandatory intensive behavioral therapy immediately upon exiting the villa, and she has to commute exclusively via the National Rail, sitting in standard class for 1 full calendar year to rebuild her empathy for the working public.
A completely just, structurally sound and fair sentence. I slammed the gavel, case closed. Honestly, analyzing the situation took literal years off my life. My cortisol is spiking just talking about it, but I wouldn't trade these sociological breakdowns with you for the world.
Never. We thrive in the analytical chaos.
Snark Squad, we are officially turning it over to you. We need your analysis in the comments and the DMs, everywhere you can find us, based on our HR framework. Which Islander is getting called into Villa HR first in your book?
And what anonymous suggestion would you personally drop into the suggestion box to fix the structural mechanics of the villa? I am still firmly convinced that lie detectors and the no-kissing rule are the only paths to salvation.
And finally, check your portfolios. Whose emotional stock are you buying or selling this week? Let us know your financial strategy. Thank you all so much for listening and spiraling with us through this absolute madness.
Don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review unless you want to be formally written up by our HR department, and share this conversation with another messy, analytical babe in your life.
Stay flirty, stay delusional, and we'll see you on the snark side.